Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. We are kicking off our second show of the year. Last week we had 4 guests and we had a show entitled Passion and Purpose, examining 4 different areas of lifestyle living and events that go on in Moore County. This week we're going to be doing the same thing, except we're going to be focusing on one of the iconic institutions in Moore County, the Arts Council of Moore County. Many of you are familiar. We've done some shows in the past about the Arts Council, but so many people who have moved into the area are not familiar. And today we're going to be featuring some events that they're going to be running from the 27th of January through the end of February. And at the same time, we want to give you some information about the council and its place in Moore County. We're being joined this morning by board member John Earp and also member Jessie Mackay, who I had not met until today, but I knew your name. I've seen you on social media. You have quite a resume from what I can see, and we're going to hopefully talk a little bit with you today about the inspiration, how you got here,
Okay.
because it's not just, you're not just domestically based in the United States. You bring a whole host of experience, I think, to the table, which people will hopefully hear about today.
Okay.
So good morning.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
And John Earp, who has been on the show in the past as a guest. You're doing an event called Reflections of Africa, and you're a Southern Pines resident, and you have been a member of the Arts Council for how long?
Hey, Bill, good morning. I've been a member for almost, as long as we've been here, for about 4 years.
Right.
I've been on the board for the last year and have participated in a number of the shows that they've done, and this one is one that I've concocted to
Right.
to draw interest about Africa, which is a place that I'm passionate about.
In the times that I've met you and the times we have spoken, you have some passion about a lot of things about this area, don't you?
A little bit.
Yeah. How did you get to Moore County?
Well, I've been coming here since the mid-'80s. Catherine, my wife's sister, and her husband live here, so we've been coming forever. And originally, when I was retiring, we thought we'd live in Miami, which is originally where I'm from, but just the hectic lifestyle, the traffic and everything just draws to decide to move to Southern Pines.
Yeah. You've been involved with the Sunrise Theater.
Yep.
Supporting the arts, the culture of Moore County, and
Sure.
it's changed a lot. How long have you been here?
We moved here officially in 2014, so
Okay.
almost 5 years.
I had moved here in 1999, and the changes that I've seen in Moore County are ridiculous. So coming here in 2014, even to today, there have been a lot of changes.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the Arts Council and how you got involved with them.
Well, the Arts Council has been in Moore County since the 70s, and it's evolved over time. But as much as that I've been involved with it, I mean, the focus is really about drawing the community's interest into the arts, not just necessarily the drawn art, but also music and to some extent the written literature and just anything connected to the arts, and not only connecting the citizens of Moore County, but also the artists themselves, and trying to draw them in as a connected group.
Yeah. This area has been described by a lot of business planners as a micropolitan type area.
Sure.
Not like a Cary or a Raleigh, but it's got the best of a small town feel, but it also has some of the advantages of an urban experience.
Yeah.
But the emphasis is still on the small town feel and preserving it.
Sure.
Yeah. You like that about this place?
I like it a lot about this place. That's
Right.
what basically made the decision to move here.
Right.
get small and actually, but I mean, you were saying it's micropolis. Is that what you said?
Micropolitan.
Micropolitan. Okay. Well, I'll go with that because I mean it has everything you need. It has great restaurants, great
Exactly.
cultural events. The arts are really strong in Moore County, and
Right.
and the people have responded. We had a show at the Arts Council Friday night, and had a huge attendance. We had probably over 400 or 500 people, and that's
that
a
right?
lot of people trying to fit into that little bit of space.
Yeah. The first time I ever came here was 1979. I was 4 years out of college. I didn't know that the Arts Council existed and was founded in 1973. All I thought was there were places to play golf.
Sure.
There were 3 restaurants to get a good steak, and the ability to watch ESPN TV and then go out the next day and do exactly the same thing. Today, the area that I live in is so completely different, and there's so much more texture to the area. It's just, it's a great place to wake up in the morning.
Sure.
Reflections of Africa, big picture. Tell me what people can expect and some of the events that will be going on.
Sure. Well, Catherine and I, we actually lived in Africa for a handful of years.
I didn't know that.
For almost 3 years. And even before that, we were living in Thailand, and I worked for Ford Motor Company and was responsible for Africa on behalf of Ford. And so I traveled there quite a bit. So for the better part of a decade, I had some engagement in Africa, and for the most part have traveled just about every country of, I hate to say commercial interest, but that's just a fact of life.
Right.
So anyway, and over time we have gotten interested in different things about Africa, but certainly their culture and so just in general, I thought it'd be a great idea to bring some of that to the Sandhills and introduce at least my perspective on Africa through the friends I have to the community. And we didn't just want to run it through the Arts Council, so we reached out to a number of other organizations. So we're actually working with the English-speaking Union, the Moore County Schools, Penick Village, the Ruth Pauley Lecture Series, the Sandhills Community College, and the Sunrise Theater. So there's a lot going on over the course of the week. We've actually reached out to the Sunrise, and they're going to show 2 separate movies about Africa. One, I'm sure everybody's familiar, will be Sunday night on January 27th, which is out of Africa. Actually, it's the matinee show at 2:30, and that's a free showing to the public. But then we're also going to show another show, which is much more about the traditional African lifestyle, and it's called The Forgotten Kingdom, and it's about a young boy living in South Africa whose father passes away, and he's from a small town or small country inside of Africa or South Africa called Lesotho. So it's an interesting story, and it's 2 different dynamics. One's a little bit more colonial, and the other's more about the traditional lifestyle of an African boy.
Yeah, you could make the argument that living in the Moore County area, it's as provincial and as American as you could possibly get. It's almost like a Norman Rockwell type backdrop. But the African culture is so different.
Sure.
I did not know that you lived in Africa. I knew you had lived in Thailand.
Yeah.
And you were there for about 3 years.
Sure.
What do you take from that experience?
Catherine will tell you that anybody she'll meet, anybody she finds out that's lived in Africa, she says it changes you. And that's what I think about Africa. Africa just physically changes how you see the world because people are resolute. They find ways to get by with the meekest of resources, and at the same time, it's the cultivation of civilization.
You made a comment before we went on the air about, and it was kind of sarcastic, but it was true. We get so wrapped up in our first world problems, and they're really not problems when you compare them to other cultures, right?
Sure. No, I mean, when you travel to places like Angola and Nigeria and you see what people have to do on a daily basis in order to get by, you kind of step back and you look at your life and think, what a blessing we have to be able to have such minuscule problems.
The event schedule is on the website.
Sure.
It starts on Sunday, the 27th of January, and runs through, I don't know if this is even current, is it February the 22nd?
Yeah, that's when they'll start taking down and preparing for the next show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it your hope that people who would attend some of these events would get a better taste of the culture of Africa,
Sure.
the lifestyle, and how privileged we are to be where we are?
Sure, and also the wildlife. So let me step back because I really
Sure.
talked about the shows at the Sunrise, but we're actually bringing over some interesting people. A good friend of mine from Kenya is Joseph Koyie. He's a naturalist. He's the head naturalist at a place called Sanctuary Oleana, and he's come to the United States on a number of occasions and talked to places like Columbia University. He's done TED Talks. He was the Born Free Foundation Guide of the Year for the Kenya, and he's won some other interesting honors. And so he's going to talk about the Maasai people and their culture and the wildlife of Africa and just the serious issues about the ecology that are taking shape. And then another friend of mine, Garth Swift, who's an artist out of South Africa, he's a wildlife artist, and he's going to be a part of the program. He's originally from Zimbabwe, but his artistic training's been in South Africa, down in the southern part of South Africa. I forget the college, Durban, University of Durban, and he's shown all over the world. I'm looking at his litany of places. He's shown at Christie's London and the Safari Club and the Southeastern Wildlife Conference. So he's quite internationally respected artist. And then we also have Jessie Mackay, who a lot of people know Jessie from her artwork associated more locally. But Jessie has a very important not-for-profit involved in Tanzania called Kiramu. And in working over there, she's drawn a very close connection to the rural communities over in Tanzania and is focused mostly on women's empowerment. I'm going to let you ask Jessie a little bit.
Well, and she's sitting right to my right, and I wanted to. I haven't met you yet, so this is the first time. But how did you get involved in Africa? And
Oh, good question.
you have a very varied background, I believe.
I do. I was living in England at the time, and to go to Africa from England's not that big a deal because it's pretty much the same time zone, and you just fly south.
Right.
I've always loved animals, and Africa's, it's breathtakingly beautiful from the photos and the things
what
that
I've
I'd
heard.
seen. So I went down there. I went to Kenya the first time, and then. And that's where I met the people that were involved in the filming of Out of Africa, and they were active in the movie. They were, they had parts. But anyway, in fact, it was his oxen, the Ola Lole oxens that were used in the film. Then the next time I went with some friends, and we rode horses across Malawi. And that was off the tourist track. And that was the first time I actually got to see how people were living. Mm-hmm. And like John said, I mean, once you...
Changes you.
Catherine, yeah, it changes you so much. And yet, I was a management consultant in England, and I was putting in behavioral management systems in business and industry. So motivating people and understanding what drove them to work and so on and so forth has always been a fascination of mine. So looking at the folks and how spare their lives were, and yet how hardworking. But there was something else that touches your heart, and I think John and Catherine would agree with this, is they have such a sense of community that we don't have. And I've had Africans come here and visit me, and they say, "Where are all the people?" They're in my neighborhood, and for 2 weeks they never saw another person out on the street, and it just blew their minds.
Right.
Anyway, in making that ride across Malawi into Zambia, I thought, I want to come back and do something. And it took years to figure out what and how. I didn't want to work for an NGO. I didn't want to work for a large organization where you sit on committee meetings and all that. Mm-hmm. And in 2008, got an opportunity to go to Tanzania to teach art in a primary school.
Okay.
And that was through the Episcopal Church, through a connection through the Episcopal Church. So a friend of mine, Tally Bandy, who's a deacon in the church, the two of us went, and I taught at the primary school, and she was teaching pastoral care at the theological college. But I really wanted to get out into the bush and see what I could do there. And I had an opportunity to go to a village, Ikoa village, and these villages, the houses are made out of brick, the roofs are made out of grass materials, things like that. They have no wells or water nearby. They have no power, no electricity. And yet there was such a wonderful sense of community in this little village, and how hard they worked and how they worked together was just, it was life-changing. In fact, I've got a quote that I like to use when somebody says, "Why Africa?" And it's a quote from Frederick Buechner, which comes to mind, and it says, "Go to that place where the needs in the world will ignite the passion in your heart, tap your natural gifts, etc. Go to that place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meets."
Wow.
And that's what I felt in this village. I mean, these women were marvelous. So I said to them, if I were able to give you a loan of $500, what could you do that would give you a leg up, so to speak? So they decided to meet and discuss it. And the next week I went back, and they formed a group of 49 women, and they decided they would raise pigs because pigs have a lot of piglets, and that they would be able to make some money with this so they could send their children to school, which was because they could see with the global warming that the climate change in Africa is perilous.
Right.
And that there was not going to be a future for their children to stay where they were. They were losing trees. Water was becoming an issue. So they really, really wanted to get their children to school. And that required being able to buy books and uniforms and so on and so forth. So they decided they would raise pigs, and I said, okay, we'll be back the next year, and you can repay the loan. And so they did. And the next year went back, and these 49 women, they had built pens themselves, and they'd raised the pigs and then bred them and then had piglets and sold them. And with much drumming and festivities, they repaid the loan in full. So then I gave them back the money and said, okay, now you form a new group, making them the moral guarantors. And because they know more about their situation and what to do about it than anybody from another country. So that what started in 2009, basically with 49 women, we now have 3,145 women earning incomes.
Wow.
Through raising pigs, and we've added goats to the mix. And if we had a lot of time, I'd have a funny story about the goats, but I'll set that aside.
We have plenty of time, and we're going to come back in the second set.
Okay.
But you just painted a beautiful word story, and you're an artist, but you're also a storyteller. And your experience just came right through with everything you were just saying. I mean, just completely wrapped in your story. And I guess the bottom line is Reflections of Africa is hopefully going to transmit some of the things that you're speaking about, some of the things that you're speaking about, so that people here can get a perspective that they don't have. Because, people only know what they know.
Right.
They don't even know what they don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with that. I run into that with
Well,
myself all the time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
We're going to come back in the second set. We're talking about the event Reflections of Africa, sponsored by or through the Arts Council of Moore County with Jessie Mackay and John Earp. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to the second set. We're talking about the Arts Council of Moore County and their event coming up at the end of January the 27th called Reflections of Africa. Information on the event and the timetable of events can be found at their website, mooreart.org. That's mooreart.org. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to be doing, and John, I get the impression that people are going to it's almost like a Ruth Pauley lecture series on many different levels that are going to be held at many different venues. It's not just a conversation, but there are going to be art exhibits. It's going to be a well-balanced event.
Yeah, Bill. I guess let me just summarize it. I think that's probably the best way to go about doing this. So on Sunday, we're starting out at the Sunrise. We're going to do a showing of Out of Africa. It's a free show to the public, and it starts at 2:30. And then on Tuesday at the Penick Village, in the morning at 9 a.m., we're going to do a presentation to the residents of the Penick Village, and offer the opportunity to interface with Joseph Koyie, who's the naturalist from Kenya. And then that evening, we're going to have a panel discussion at 4 o'clock with the English-speaking Union at the Pinehurst Members Club. And as I said, that'll be a panel discussion, which will have not only Joseph, but also Jessie Mackay, Garth Swift, and another person, Patricia Thomas, who's from Quebec, but she's a resident originally from the Sandhills community. And she's worked in Africa for over 35 years and is also, like Jessie, an artist as well, late found in life. And then Wednesday, we're going to go into the Moore County schools and visit with 2 or 3 of the different schools in the community.
That's great.
And then that evening, we're going to do another movie as a free showing. It's called The Forgotten Kingdom. And then the week goes on. Thursday night, we're going to work with the Ruth Pauley lecture series. And finally, Friday is the grand reception at the Campbell House, which all the artists' works will be on display. So that's pretty much a summary of the week.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
How are you getting the word out about the event?
Well, here, of course.
Right.
Over at the Sunrise, we put together a preview of the week's events, video, and so they're showing that, so that's getting out. And then each of the sponsors, we're giving them different resources to put up on their websites to promote the fact that they're engaged and involved with the event.
And then you were in the magazine.
Jessie?
Pine Straw Magazine did a wonderful article, and then the pilot, John's talked to them, and they're also going to do a story or something like that.
Yeah, it's a great time of the year. It's really like one of the first events of the year to get things kicked off, and I guess everybody keeps their fingers crossed too and hopes that the weather cooperates.
Yeah.
Right, because that is.
Yeah.
I think there's a direct relation between the weather and the turnout.
Oh, it's so weird. I mean,
Right?
if it rains, the power goes off, and everybody. You know, I'm from the north, so I was.
Where are you from?
Connecticut.
You're from Connecticut.
Yeah, yeah.
And how long did you live overseas?
Well, I had a business in England for 11 years, and then I lived 3 years in Germany, 1 year in Switzerland, and then I go back and forth to France a lot. I take painting groups and things like that.
So I have to ask, because I always ask this of a lot of guests, how did you get to Moore County?
With a former husband who was a golfer, and I liked riding, and so we thought this is a pretty ideal location for
Right.
golfing and riding.
Right.
And but I was thinking of moving away to where there was a cooler climate or more artistic things. But then in the time I've lived here, like you, because I came in '99.
Okay.
My gosh, we've got the Sunrise has the Bolshoi. They have the Metropolitan Opera. We've got wonderful restaurants. The Arts Club has done wonderful things, and it's just I call this community home. I mean, it's just it's a wonderful place to live.
Yeah, I love that the Arts Council is including the Moore County schools on their agenda.
For sure.
Because we have a lot of shows actually where we feature students from the Moore County school system, and there's nothing that's more energizing than some of these proactive students who are really, they have a sense of urgency, they want to learn, they want to open their minds to a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest reasons there's been such a...
Speaking of that, the O'Neill School, there's some girls there
Yeah.
that are going to do, they're working with me, and they're going to do a women's empowerment project, but it's also going to be for women here.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm meeting with them later in the month, and I said, we can't go to your parents and ask for money to raise money. You're going to have to do this like people do in Africa. You're going to have to come up with a way of earning money on your own, through whatever means you can that's legal. And so it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. But the O'Neill School's been pretty involved in Karimu, so.
Yeah.
Actually, Kate Curtin over at the Arts Council, she's full-time dedicated to the schools. So we have a person that is 100% aligned with the schools, and for the most part, that's their full-time job.
Yeah. It happens more and more. People are moving into this area, and the number one reason they're moving here are the schools. And they're bringing their kids. And the schools have responded, and there are a lot of changes going on in the educational system in Moore County and the physical structures and what's happening. So the generations that we remembered who lived here, who made this such a vital place, that is shifting. There's an absolute shift going on, and we're living right in the middle of that transition. But it's so great to see that an area like this it's more than just sports and more than just golf and tennis. It's becoming that blended community, which makes it the quality of life so good when you factor everything in. And John, you are a testament to that with all your traveling, the fact that you picked this area to live.
Well, I'll take you back a little bit. Were you here when Sleddens used to be here?
Yes, I was. I used to go
For anybody
there.
that's
And La
listening,
Terrasse.
when I say the word Sleddens,
Yeah, La Terrasse. Yep.
Yeah. And the
that'll bring back some memories.
So,
Yeah.
back I came here in late 1979, but in the 80s, there were one or two restaurants
That's it.
that you could go to eat, and if you had a date or you were on a social dinner, I mean, unless from a guy's point of view, unless the lady friend you were with loved football or basketball, there was nowhere to go.
I know, that's
You went to
right.
Sleddens, you'd go to Beefeaters.
Wow.
But you bring back, Sleddens was the place to go in town.
And La Terrasse.
And La Terrasse. And that's where the American Red Cross, the older building was, but they just moved, but that's where La Terrasse was. They took it down, and isn't that where Southern Prime is right now?
Yes, and remember the big hoo-ha over the tree?
I do remember the big oak
The
tree.
no, it was a cedar, wasn't it? It
Cedar
was
tree.
Yeah. And again, that's a first world problem.
Right. We have lots of that here. So the becoming a member of the Moore County Arts, can we talk a little bit about the Art
Sure.
Council? And
Please.
what kind of membership do you have, and what kind of there are fees associated, and how do you raise money?
Yeah.
It's a nonprofit.
I should know the exact amount. It's fairly nominal.
It's
There's
35. I
Yeah,
think.
it's like 35 per individual, maybe 60 per family.
Uh-huh.
I could be wrong, but in general, it's not an unreasonable amount of money. And actually, for that, there's a lot of membership benefits. But of note, whenever we participate in an event like going to the North Carolina Symphony, or whenever they have these trips that
Art
they
museums.
sponsor, or the art museums, there's always a discount. So the membership fee is nominal compared to some of the benefits you get from participating.
And overseas trips.
Yeah, there's a lot of trips that the Arts Council does over the course of the year. I'd say they almost do 10, 15 trips
Yeah.
across different places in the U.S.
You talk about on the website the Campbell House.
Sure.
Something I did not know, but I know now. The core of the Campbell House was part of the original Boyd
Yeah,
mansion.
across the street.
I did not know
And
that.
they literally brought that, they hauled it on logs and, I guess, mules
I did not know that.
to pull it across the street and get it to where it's at.
And so my house sits right on the corner
Yeah.
opposite there, and it's that was also part of the Boyd estate as well, broken up. But that is a gorgeous facility, and that's open to the public.
Sure, every day.
People don't know that. They drive by it, and maybe it's a little intimidating, and they think, and they just see that beautiful building. But it is open to the public.
For sure.
And you have different events, different art shows.
Each month we have a different show, a different artist that we're showcasing, or a different group of artists. So it's constantly changing.
Right. Do you have any affiliation with the Pinehurst Newcomers Club?
No.
Not necessarily, no.
So that's an outfit. There's so many people here from New England and
sure.
the Midwest, and they move here, and they retire here. And the Newcomers Club is a great organization that gets together, and it's socially based. It's a way to network. It's a way to meet people. You made a point that we don't have enough of a community.
Yeah.
And there are, certain pockets of the area you could live, and if you go home at night at 5 o'clock and it gets dark, and you're not close to town, you just stay home. You get up the next day, and there's no sense of... The Newcomers Club does a great job of coordinating people and getting them together with different social
I'll have to
functions.
look into that.
That would be a natural. Vicki Hancock, I believe. Do
Okay.
you know Vicki?
I heard the name.
She's been involved. We've had them on in the past. That would be a great connection, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the Newcomers Club for sure. And what about youth programs through the Arts Council?
Well, we have a number. Most of it is through the schools, but we also have, it's through the schools, but they have an annual contest of different grade levels, and we recognize and give cash awards to each level based on, most of that's the drawn art. But we also focus on music as well. We collect musical instruments that have been set aside that families aren't using anymore, and find a way through redistributing it back into the school system wherever they have musical programs.
Also, at the various art shows they have once a month, they very often have students from the Pinecrest High School who play, and they'll have a quartet, or it's usually classical music, but
Right.
it's great. It gives the children a chance to perform. So that's another good thing they do.
And Chris Dunn,
Is awesome.
he does right. He does a great job, doesn't he, of getting the word out of what the council can do.
Good trumpet player too.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. In the summertime, one of the biggest complaints about this area way back when was in the summer, the kids had nothing to do here. I mean, kids in high school, except get in trouble. That's all changed. Now there's so much to do in the summer here. Does the council have any summer programs that the kids can take part in?
Actually, we are more aligned with the schools, so when summer does take place, generally speaking, we're not as engaged because the schools are closed. So unfortunately, the answer to that is no.
Okay.
But I think that's a great idea, to come up with some ideas to engage kids during the course of the summer.
We rented the Campbell House way back in 2001. We had we had a musician come down and did a benefit concert after 9/11, and she was a favorite artist of mine. Nobody had heard of her. Her name was Jane Oliver. She was considered almost like a poor man's Barbra Streisand, a cross between Streisand and Edith Piaf.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Nice
and
combination.
She came down and she did a concert. So when she got here, she was here for 3 days, and she was doing a show in Asheville, and she was also doing a show at the Country Club of North Carolina. We had a luncheon at the Campbell House. We went in, and it was such a gorgeous setting in that back room.
Sure.
And there were about 20 of us, the committee people, and her jaw dropped. She was from the Baltimore, Maryland area. And what a way to introduce yourself to Moore County than going in through the Campbell House. I mean, it's a stunning building.
It is.
And that was 2001, December of 2001. You were here? Yeah, you were here. You were here. So Reflections of Africa, again, the list of events can be found on the website at moreart.org. You've got some good sponsors. You've got great facilities for people to see during this event. And it's not a bar crawl. It's sort of like a cultural crawl.
Yeah, exactly.
A good way to put it.
Right?
And there's a good review in this month's Pine Straw,
Right.
telling the agenda, right, John?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, what I want to say is, please, everybody, there's something for everybody in this program. We have 3 great world-class artists, in addition to Joseph Koyie, who's a naturalist out of Kenya, and he's also a Maasai. And Maasais are warriors, and I'm going to save a little bit for the actual event, but it's a fascinating culture, and Joseph's here not only to speak about his culture, but also the Masai Mara, the land, the issues that they're engaged with in trying to sustain their cultures, and just in general about the wildlife in Africa in general. Yeah. But I really encourage everybody to come out. Like I said, schedules are online at the Arts Council site, but also we're going to have posters spread about the community.
Right.
And also the Sunrise Theater has a list of schedules as well.
Yeah, great job. I'm so glad you guys could come in and talk to us. And
Thanks.
Jessie, I'm so glad I had a chance to meet you. John, you're welcome back anytime.
Sure.
The Arts Council of Moore County will be presenting Reflections of Africa in about a week from now.
Yep. January 27th.
So please go online, and we hope you have great participation, and we hope the weather is gorgeous.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill.
John Earp,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Jessie Mackay, thank you so much. This is All Things Moore County. Thank you. Welcome back to All Things Moore County, and with Christmas and New Year's just behind us, it's a great time to look back a little bit and reflect. If we go all the way back to November the 17th, which was the one-day Musicians for Moore Hurricane Relief Benefit Concert, and as successful as the event was, there were lots of things that happened with the monies that were raised afterwards, and right into Christmas, because of all the needy families that benefited from the funds that were raised. And to come in and to sort of give us a little bit of a recap, Julia Brockmeyer from More Choices is here, and Jordan Cranford, who is a local musician, singer and actress. They were both on the show prior to the event in November, and Jordan, as I recall, the reason that the music was so good and was an all-day affair was you actually rallied everybody and recruited all the acts that came in.
Yes, I did. There was a bit of turnover due to scheduling conflicts, but we ended up, from the original 32, we ended up with 28, which is still
It's crazy good.
pretty good.
And you had, it was a 12 noon to midnight affair, so there was musical acts all day long.
Yep, and I live streamed most of it. I missed the last two acts, Soulshine Brotherhood and Aaron Fusen, but I live streamed all of it from my Facebook account so that people could see it even if they couldn't be there.
Even though Florence happened, it was September, I think, was a hurricane in September?
I believe so.
And or late out August, or I think it was September. Yeah. So it didn't take you guys long to pull something together, and a lot of people in the northern part of the county still are suffering. But you have, Julia, I guess there's some success stories that came from the concert and the funds that were raised.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
The turnout, the excitement, it couldn't have gone any better.
Right.
It flowed so smoothly, and we were able to raise between sponsorships. We had a raffle,
Right.
and we did a 50-50, and also just donations. We raised over $11,000.
That's crazy.
It was so exciting. When we saw the final numbers, we were just like,
Yeah.
Nicole, the manager of Rail House, said she couldn't wait to count it. She counted up that night afterwards, and she was like just bawling.
Railhouse Brewery is quite a venue.
I was very impressed.
Yeah.
And everything just flowed so smoothly. They had 2 stages set up. They had
Yeah,
plenty
and
of
it ran
room.
like clockwork.
It was great.
Yeah.
We had 2 different sound guys running sound. We had 2 different sound guys running sound on each stage so that we could transition between the artists pretty seamlessly.
Yeah.
Without having to have a lot of stop and start in between.
And the weather was crazy good as
It
well,
was beautiful.
right? It was like an Indian
so
summer.
beautiful. Yeah.
Because we didn't have a fall this year.
No.
Well, we did that weekend.
It was like, I truly believe that God just shined his love down that day. And everybody was so generous. But the best part was after, when we actually got to reward the families.
Right.
And meet the families. So we did that, when was that? Early December on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
And you went to see them and did what?
We saw the damage too while we were out there. We would go in the backyard and see. There was one place where there was an 8-foot drop off that led down into was it the river or the creek?
I can't remember if it was Little River or Creens Creek.
There was a bathtub floating in the river.
Oh, geez.
TV floating, a router. We were both like, that's a router. It was so sad. I
wild.
mean, this drop was 8 feet.
Yeah.
And to think the water rose that high, and then this one house was maybe 50 feet back from where it overflowed, and just the mold. And Jordan and I were really like kind
Moved.
of we were moved. Nicole had spent a lot of time out there because she volunteered with Operation AWOL, but Jordan and I, with our work and businesses, we just weren't able to get out there.
Right.
So this was our first time actually seeing the devastation, and it was very emotional.
Yeah.
As much as it was successful and you raised $11,000 and people had a good time and it was for a good cause, there's still a missing link a little bit, and that is that a lot of people still don't have a sense of the devastation that the hurricane created for a lot of people.
No. And it's like we were talking about when we went out there. It's like there are two sides of Moore County, and that side, you don't think about it being part of Pinehurst, Southern Pines, the more well-off neighborhoods. But you go out there, and it's a completely different world.
Mm-hmm.
When I got home, I told my husband and my boys, I feel like I just visited a third world country. Like, I get choked up talking about it now.
Right.
Because there's still, we were able to give people gift cards to places like Lowe's, Walmart. A couple people, we were actually able to give them a down payment for their security deposit to move into a new rental.
Wow.
So for people that were able to get out and get a rental, like that was amazing. Like, they never have to go back. But these people who are stuck in mortgages, like, we met some of these people. They have to rebuild. They have nowhere else to go. So the gift cards we gave them, it was great and it was awesome, but I still left just feeling like, oh my gosh, these people they still need so much more.
Yeah, we always talk on the show about the Moore County, the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
And you guys got some exposure to the have-nots in a way.
Yeah.
And it was a Band-Aid. It was a good Band-Aid, but it was not surgery where you could redo things. You can't change people's reality, but you could at least get them through Christmas and give them some comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. It was like a big Christmas present.
Yeah.
Just bringing some joy into their lives that are so hard.
Yeah. I remember you had one of the people who, they were the beneficiary of some of the money. They actually came and performed at the Railhouse Brewery that day, the 17th.
Yeah, that was my friend Michelle Gagnon. She was one of the people we went to their house and saw. They've completely gutted it.
Yeah.
But they're rebuilding. But yeah, she was so appreciative. She cried when I told her how much we made and how much she was going to get and how much we were going to be able to help her. And I've made a lifelong friend, you know, from this endeavor.
Right.
And she did a great job too. She was a little nervous, but I played for her.
So you, so I have this thing about, passionate people, and you are a passionate person, and you're passionate about your music, and you took it to another level, and you made it very constructive. I mean, you have a day job.
Yeah.
And you're a hard worker, but your passion is your music. And I follow you on Facebook, Jordan Cranford, and you have a couple of gigs going on locally. You want to talk a little bit about them?
Sure. Me and my guitarist, Tim Fogarty, who is an incredible musician, we have a regular gig every other Wednesday night at Char Bar. Occasionally we play at Drum and Quill. We haven't got any set dates right now for the new year because they're still booking it out. I'm also going to be singing in a performance January 12th with a few local musicians at the Fair Barn for the Pine Wild big celebration for 2019.
Yeah.
I got an email about that the other day.
How do you categorize your music, your style?
I don't
because I listen to you. You're really good.
I don't put myself in a box. I try to do everything so that I have a wide range of styles that I can do.
Yeah.
Soul and R&B and Motown, that's what I grew up on, so that's what I love the most. But I also will do some pop stuff. I'll do some, 50s, 60s, throwbacks. Show tunes, obviously. I'm a musical theater person.
Right.
I'll throw down some Hamilton.
I made the mistake of, when you were first on the show promoting the event, so I said to you, do you think sing things like James Taylor? And you go, no, I don't do James Taylor. And you said more like Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
So huge difference.
Yeah.
I think of folk music and this and that, but it's more rhythm and it's blues.
blues, soul, R&B.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite, like Joss Stone, Pink, Adele.
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorite artists. But I also love, Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald and Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson.
Wow. So taking your passion and then sharing it with others and your friends, you help to create something. And from what I understand, all the musicians came to do this through your recruiting, and they donated their time to this event.
They did. Some of them were friends of mine from karaoke. Some I met through Moore County Creative Central Facebook page. That's actually where I met Dan Ring, who did our sound. He also works with Joel from Mechanics Hill Marketing. So a lot of those contacts I made through Facebook, through Moore County Creative Central.
Yep.
But all of the artists that I got, a lot of those I managed to get from friends of mine.
Okay. If people, I just because we're going to run short in time. If people want to look you up and to listen to you, where can they go? YouTube.
You can look me up on YouTube and type in Jordan Cranford, or you can go to Facebook at Music by Jordan Cranford, or just search for Jordan Carol Cranford on Facebook.
Okay.
Carole.
Okay. You're an example of that expression, keeping hope alive, right? You did a great job.
Thank you.
You did a great job. And Julia, your More Choices, all the networking that you've gotten involved in has taken on so many different definitions and different, probably in ways you never thought possible when you started this about 3 years ago? Or two years ago?
Actually, this is our 4-year anniversary.
4 year?
We officially launched the website January 2015.
Okay.
So yay, 4 years. It really, I was just thinking about it the other day, how it's just blown my mind, and I've been able to meet so many wonderful people and give back to the community. I've been able to partner with, Sandhills Children's Center, Habitat for Humanity, Vision for More,
Right.
and help them promote their events, and it's been great.
It's this is the beginning of the 10th year of doing the show.
Wow.
And one of the themes of the show has always been that Moore County is a great place to live, and there's a connectedness here that is so unusual that you don't always find in large urban areas, and you can discover yourself, and within 2 years, 2 years is like a lifetime, and you can really make a difference. And you have. I've watched you.
You can.
Yeah.
It's so true. If you want to get involved,
Yeah.
there are so many ways to get involved in Moore County. In fact, I have to plug, I just launched a new page on my website called Connect.
Okay.
So you can go there and find different groups to join and be a part of and get involved.
Well, you guys, kudos to both of you. Musicians for More, the Hurricane Relief Benefit Concert, through your efforts, was a very successful event, and you've made some indelible impressions on some people that were very much in need. So with that in mind, it's a good way to kick off the year, and I'm glad you guys could come in and give us a little bit of a recap.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Everybody have a great week. Thank you.